Man, look, there has been some crazy developments in this R. Kelly case. Let me tell you, man. So I just got this information, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are gonna start blogging about it. There's a few people that already has this information. Let me just first say that I was actually on my Twitter account earlier, and I saw Greenberg complaining about fake motions filed in R. Kelly's case. So of course, me being the curious blogger that I am, I had to go on over to find out if any of this stuff is true. So I have with me, I believe, a letter and I also have a motion that were filed in the R. Kelly case. And these are the motions that I believe that Greenberg is saying is false or fraudulent, right? So I'm going to go through these, but I'm going to try to do something different with this video in the effect that, typically I read through all these motions and so on and so forth. I'm not actually going to read them. I'm just going to present them, and I'm going to just give you my opinion of what they say, and I'm going to give you my opinion as to what all this means, right? So let me just first say this. Whoever sent these letters, whoever filed this stuff, is either stupid or incredibly smart. And I say this for a couple of reasons. I think the person could be stupid because there's lots of ways that you can get caught doing stuff like this. And you're basically putting yourself up in a situation where you can get hit with several counts in an indictment. Number one, I mean, there's several counts of fraud that you're going to get hit with. First, you're going to get hit with good old fashioned fraud. And basically, fraud means that you're trying to present something or misrepresent something that involves a material fact. So you're trying to get people to rely on this, right? So whoever is sending these letters, they're sending these letters pretending to be R. Kelly, and they're trying to trick the court into entertaining this stuff, right? So you're going to get hit with good old fashioned fraud. Then you're going to get hit with probably a count of fraud upon the court or presenting a fraudulent document on the court or something of that nature. Then you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit with mail fraud because you sent all this stuff through the mail. Now, I'm not saying you, the YouTuber, or the person who's watching this is going to get hit with. I'm just saying whoever has done this is really putting their life on the line here. I mean, you are really putting your life on the line. And of course, we live in an information age. So there's millions of ways that you can get caught. Now, I'm not sure how they sent this or how they engaged the post office. Did they walk into the post office with a Corvette 19 mask and a baseball cap so the cameras couldn't pick them up? Because there's damn well going to be cameras in the post office. And then not only are there cameras inside the post office, but I would imagine that there's a chance there could be cameras outside the post office. So did the person cover up their license plate or did they put a fake license plate on their car? I mean, there's just so many ways that you can get caught. I think about the Jesse Smollett investigation and how the cops did a really detailed job on trying to figure out whether or not this guy is telling the truth. And I would imagine the same amount of effort is going to be put into finding whoever sent these letters. And when they find you, man, look, I I would say I promise you, but I don't even need to promise you. I'm telling you, they throwing you up under the jail. They gonna make an example out of you, guaranteed, no doubts about it. So anyway, um, before I get started, I guess I should talk about how the person could be incredibly smart because if they if they thought about all these things, then more than likely they came up with a way to keep themselves from actually being discovered. But like, who is that good? Only a professional is going to be good enough to cover all the bases and try to keep themselves from being discovered. Only a professional is going to do that. When I say a professional, I mean some type of spy could probably have done this. Like the other day, I was watching a video of how this Chinese, or I read an article or something, how this Chinese dude was actually working for the police department, and he was spying for the Chinese government, for the full length of his employment. So, I mean, you would have to be a professional. You would definitely have to have some help. This is my opinion. Like, if you're going to get away with something like this, you would have to be a professional. And when I say professional, somebody who knows espionage and spy versus spy and things of that nature. I don't think the average blow Joe is going to be able to pull all this off and cover their tracks. I just don't believe it. Leave your questions and comments below. Do you think this person is incredibly smart or incredibly stupid? And do you think this person is going to get caught? We're going to get into, towards the end of this video, we'll get into, we'll talk more about how the person could get caught. But look, let me tell you, when they catch you, man, it's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty. They're going to throw you up under the jail, guaranteed. So, at any rate, so I have one of the letters, with the letter that was filed and that is allegedly a fraudulent letter, right? So I'm just going to read it really quickly. I promise I wouldn't read it, but I'm going to read this one really quickly. And basically, I redacted the addresses out because I don't want to, be responsible for throwing addresses out there on the internet, even though lots of people are. But anyway, so this is a letter by someone who is pretending to be R. Kelly. I don't believe R. Kelly wrote this, but on the same token, I don't know that he did not write this, right? I have no way to confirm whether he wrote or he didn't write this letter, right? But anyway, he goes on to say, whoever this is, I am writing you this letter to inform you that I'm being denied effective assistance of counsel at the pretrial stage in the above referenced criminal case. I've instructed my attorney by the name of Stephen A. Greenberg to file a pretrial motion under federal Criminal Rules of Procedure 12B2. Mr. Greenberg refuses to electronically file on my behalf a legal document titled Defendant's Expedited Motion to Dismiss Criminal Cause of Action, consisting of 6 pages, as prepared by me with the help of my family and friends. A copy of the unidentified Rule 12B motion is enclosed for your review. Although there are multiple attorneys representing me in court, none of them has carried out their duties to me by filing the necessary 12B motion for the adjudication of this court. Since my attorney has breached their duties owed to me, they are subject to a lawsuit for legal malpractice. Thank you, Judge, for discussing this matter with my attorneys. Respectfully submitted. And there is a name, R. Kelly, Robert Sylvester Kelly. And this is a certified mail, right? So that this has been sent through the post office. There's a tracking number if you guys want to go into the U.S. Post Office's website and basically look up the tracking. And it looks like the date is the 14th. So they wrote this some time ago and are only now sending it on the 22nd, right, of September. So this is interesting. The first thing I noticed is that there's no signature. I would say this could be a red flag in the sense that there's no signature, but it may not be a red flag. And the reason I say this is that we live in the age of technology and people just aren't signing anything anymore. A lot of times what they'll do is that they'll just use a electronic signature, and they'll use it through the application, whatever. They're not manually signing anything anymore. And I think this is accepted because technology, we live in a day and age where people realize that people are filing things from their computer and they're not walking into the clerk's office to file stuff. So the signature, in a lot of cases, it doesn't even matter anymore, right? So, but in this context, this is a handwritten letter, supposedly, right? Well, not necessarily handwritten, it was mailed in. And if it was mailed in, there would have been an opportunity to provide a signature. So that should be a red flag. I'm going to lean on the side of it being a red flag. If you disagree, does the signature matter? Questions, comments below, let me know. The other thing I notice about this is that, to me, I know that Greenberg said there's a lot of typos and errors in these documents, but I don't see them. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trained in law. I'm just some guy on the internet who reads stuff like this, but I don't see any errors in this particular letter. To me, it looks to be well written. And to me, it looks like someone knows a little bit about law. Again, I have no idea who wrote this, and I have no idea whether or not R. Kelly is behind this. And to be honest with you, there there's going to be lots of conspiracy theories rolling around about this. And when we get into this, you're going to see why. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. And you should think about this. And I want to know what your thoughts are. One thing that could be happening is, of course, in my opinion, this is a fraudulent letter. Greenberg is denying R. Kelly wrote it, and he's his lawyer. We have to believe him. Greenberg is denying is saying this is fraud. We have to believe that. However, the contents of this letter could be true. And I have no way of verifying that. Now, I haven't really done any research on the arguments in the letter, but it's some pretty interesting stuff. It's thought provoking. If you want me, the non lawyer, to do research, and you know how I do research, and you've seen some of the work I've done, you've seen the type of stuff that I've done. If you want me to do that, as it regards to this letter and this, not necessarily the letter, but the actual motion, which we're going to get into that. Leave me, so let's skip on. So they're claiming that the motion was filed under Rule 12b2. Let's take a quick look at Rule 12b2 of the Criminal Code of Procedure, right? The Federal Criminal Code of Procedure, right? So here is the Federal Criminal Code of Procedure and Rule 12b2. And it basically just goes on to say motions that may be made at any time. A motion that the court lacks jurisdiction may be made at any time while the case is pending. So for those of you that don't know, and like if you've been watching my channel, you've probably heard me say this lots of time, that jurisdiction can be challenged at any court at any time, and any judgment that was had without subject matter jurisdiction is void. I mean, you can just throw that judgment in the garbage, right? So if what they're claiming in this document is true, that the court doesn't have jurisdiction, then if the court issues a judgment against R. Kelly, that judgment is going to be garbage. You can just take it, ball it up, throw it in the garbage can, because that's all it's worth. It's not even worth the paper it's written on. It's garbage. Now, of course, I have no way of knowing whether or not what they're saying is true. I can do the research on it, but I'm not going to invest any time in this. There's other projects that I want to get off. There's personal things going on in my life. And trust me, this is worth digging into. But just know, if you go to court and they put a judgment against you, and it's later found that that judgment is void because of lack of jurisdiction, then that judgment is no good. You can throw that judgment away, right? So that's the claim that they're making, and you can make this motion at any time. You can make this motion after judgment. This is a pre-trial motion, but this can be made at any time. It can be made before the case has begun. It can be made during the case. You can make this argument after the case. You can make it 20 years after the case. You can make this argument, right? So that's what a 12b2 motion is all about. It's a challenge to subject matter jurisdiction. They're just saying jurisdiction, but I'm just going to say subject matter jurisdiction. Now, interestingly enough, I would like to get into 12b pleadings and pretrial motions. That's going to be a good video for another time. Just general information for people out there who may be going through some things, and they may be looking for ways to defend themselves. And of course, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some guy on the internet. But Rule 12b is probably where you want to start if you're pro se, right? You should get a lawyer, and you should get a professional to defend you. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that when you go into court, you're playing one of the most intense games of chess that somebody could ever play. I mean, really intense, and you really want somebody on your team who is trained in law, who's a professional, and who has experience, right? So it would be the equivalent of going on to a basketball court trying to play, Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or LeBron, all in their prime. They're all on the same team, and you're going up against them. That's how tough law can be sometimes. So, if you represent yourself pro se, you should know that it's easy to, in my opinion, it's easy to read all the rules and just, kind of memorize all the stuff. But it's quite another thing to get on the court and perform. You can read about basketball, you can read all the rules, but if you don't have any experience and you don't know how to play, you're gonna get toasted. So just throwing it out there. But anyway, so I would like to, hopefully I'll get some time to go over through pleadings and pretrial motions from a civil rules of procedure and also a criminal rules of procedure. It's probably called something else in the civil. It's probably not 12B. But anyway, moving on. So this is what they're claiming. They're claiming lack of subject matter jurisdiction. So we move on. Here is the actual motion that's filed by the imposter, the R. Kelly imposter, right? I don't know that R. Kelly didn't write this. I don't know that R. Kelly was not involved in this. I'm not saying that he was involved in this. I don't know who put all this stuff together, right? I mean, we really don't know. And I think that's where the conspiracy theory is going to come in because, in my opinion, just on first glance, it makes me go, It makes me wonder whether or not what they're saying is true, right? So I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to, because I've already read it, I'm just going to go through the points that I highlighted. So the first thing that they're saying, let me just read this part. Every grand jury and panel before any district court shall consist of not less than 16, no more than 23 persons. If less than 16 of the persons are summoned, attend, they shall be placed on the grand jury, and the court shall order the marshal to summon either immediately or for a day fixed from the body of the district and not from the bystanders a sufficient number of persons to complete the grand jury. Thus, the word shall be as used in section 3321 is ordinarily the language of command, right? So the first argument is that they're saying that there wasn't enough people on the grand jury. That's what I got from reading this. And then the second argument they make, second, in order for Mr. Kelly to be lawfully indicted by a grand jury, at least 12 jurors had to concur in the presentment of the indictment. A grand jury may indict only if 12 jurors concur. The grand jury or its forepersons or deputy foreperson must return the indictment to a magistrate judge in open court, right? So actually there's a second and a third argument here. The second thing that they're saying is that a grand jury or its foreperson must return the indictment to the magistrate judge in open court, right? So there, to me, it seems like they're alleging that the jury foreperson or deputy foreperson didn't return any indictment. And then they're also saying that there are no true bill indictments as marked filed in open court. Now, I do have the indictment, and we'll graze over that. But I also covered the indictment in my legal analysis series videos. I think it's called the legal analysis of R. Kelly's federal trial in Illinois. You can go and check that out, where I go in great detail about the indictment in Illinois federal court against R. Kelly. But we'll also just skim over it here as well, right? But they're saying that the indictment was returned is not true, meaning that it's fraudulent. And then it goes on to say, it is true that a defendant cannot rightfully be put on trial for a criminal offense prosecuted by an indictment unless the record shows that the indictment was returned in open court by a grand jury. So again, they're saying that there's no evidence that an indictment was returned in the R. Kelly case. Now, I have no idea if any of this information is true. I could research it, but again, if you want me to research it, and then I'll go through the all these claims, and I'll give you my opinion as to whether or not any of it is true. Then they're also saying neither is there any evidence that a foreperson or a grand jury complied with Rule 6C, which states that a foreperson or another juror designated by the foreperson will record the number of jurors concurrent in every indictment and will file the record with the clerk. So they're saying they didn't keep track of the number of jury members, I mean the grand jury that was involved, and they didn't file it with the clerk. Finally, the R. Kelly imposter respectfully asked his honorable court to grant this Rule 12b2 motion and to expeditiously dismiss the criminal cause of action for lack of jurisdiction and to immediately release Mr. R. Kelly from illegal detention. So, again, I have no idea if the claims in this motion, fraudulent motion, is true. I have no idea. I can research it. If you want me to research it, leave me a tip. Now, it's crazy because here's the thing. On one hand, we know that this is a fraudulent letter, right? But what if it's true? What if the stuff that they're saying is true? If the stuff is true, maybe the person that sent this is really just trying to tell the world that this is bogus. But if the person is trying to tell the world that this is bogus, they could easily just, post a video, a YouTube video, and just put the information out there. And then on the other hand, this document looks like it's well written, and it looks to me like only a lawyer is going to know if this stuff is good. But to me, it just looks like someone knows a little bit about the law, and they're either giving you facts or they're really good with writing legal documents that they have a way of wording it to make it look like it's legitimate. I haven't gone through this with a fine tooth comb. You got to go through this stuff with a magnifying glass to see if any of these claims are legit. So I haven't done that, and I'm pretty sure someone else is probably going to. Fortunately, I don't have time to go through every single motion that's posted on the internet. I have to be selective because I have a life. But with all that said, this is some pretty interesting stuff because if this information is true, then honestly, they have to let R. Kelly go. Leave your questions and comments below. Do you think any of this is true? What are your thoughts on this? I want to hear what you think about this. So here we have Greenberg's motion to basically strike those fraudulent motions. And there's nothing really to read here. Basically, he's saying that R. Kelly didn't file this, and he didn't file it on R. Kelly's behalf, and he's asking the court to strike it from the record to make it as though it never really existed, right? And then finally, here is R. Kelly's indictment, right? So again, I am not a lawyer. I have no idea if any of the claims that the person made in the motion are true, but according to the indictment, I don't see any type of affidavit from the grand jury or the jury foreperson or the deputy foreperson. I don't see anything like that in this. I don't know that something like that would go in the indictment, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see if any of these claims are somehow giving any consideration, right? Because although the document is fraudulent, it still makes you think as to whether or not any of this stuff is true. Like if you know whether or not an affidavit from the jury should be in this, or the grand jury, or if some type of statement from the grand jury should be in this, definitely let me know. It basically says the special May 2019 grand jury charges, but it doesn't say whether or not a grand jury actually agreed to indict R. Kelly. So I don't know. This is pretty interesting stuff. Let me know what you think. Questions and comments below. Let me know what you think. And then, of course, the other thing that I probably should cover is that, where is it? Is that the motion, these fraudulent motions were actually sent via mail, right? And they have R. Kelly's jail address, and then it's addressed to Judge Leaning Weber. And basically I redacted the information because I don't want to be one of the people that's putting that information out there. But although it's kind of public information at this point, but I just don't want to continue to put that stuff out there. So this letter is actually coming from Severn, Maryland. So I've never even heard of a Severn, Maryland. I don't know much about a Severn, Maryland, but there's quite a bit of investigation to be done to figure out uh, who sent the letter and why Severn, Maryland, right? And of course, there's a tracking number, so it's going to provide you the tracking history. But honestly, that's not going to be much. I don't see any relevance in the tracking history because we can already see where it came from. The I would imagine there's many ways to catch a person who does stuff like this. If they're really good, and when I say good, I think they would have to be a professional. They would, and when I say professional, I mean like CIA or FBI or some type of spy or something like that. Because you got to think, there's cameras everywhere. There are cameras absolutely everywhere. And I'm pretty sure there's cameras in the post office. There's probably cameras outside the post office. I would imagine that the average Joe Blow would probably just put on his coronavirus mask and a baseball cap and think that that would be enough. But in my opinion, something like that is not going to be enough because there's cameras everywhere. And if they even just get a picture of your license plate when you're going into the post office, then they got you. They got you. So that means you have to have a fake license plate on your car, right? Or a car that you can easily dispose of so that you can go to the post office and file this fraudulent letter. At least that's my thinking. I'm pretty sure there's probably multiple ways in which they could have gotten this filed, but ultimately you would have had to put a lot of thought into filing this because if they catch you, they're throwing you up under the jail. I'm telling you right off the bat. If they figure out that you sent this letter, oh, it's over. You're probably going to get more time than anybody in this case could get if they actually get convicted. Because I don't think they're going to play with this because you're talking about the integrity of the United States court system, and there's no way that they're going to allow something like this, to go unpunished. There's no way they're going to allow something like this to go without making an example of the person responsible. So that's it for this video. Leave your questions and comments below. Do you think that any of the allegations made in this fraudulent letter is true? Do you think the indictment is bogus? Do you think that maybe, and I'm going to throw this out here. I'm going to throw it out here. I'm not saying it's true, but do you think maybe R. Kelly or Greenberg filed this letter just to bring attention to these facts? I don't think that's really the case because again, someone could have easily put this on YouTube. They could have easily put it on Twitter. I'm not sure. So I'm going to say the person who did this is stupid because they could have easily just put this information out on the internet, right? And then basically spanned it on the internet to get everybody's attention. So the person who sent this, in my opinion, they honestly thought that this would somehow go unnoticed and the judge would believe it. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know what to think here because on the other hand, maybe they don't care if they know that the court knows it's fraud. They just want to bring it to the court's attention and they want to put it in the court's face because I guess if you're a judge, ethically you're not going to pay attention to everything that's going on in the internet, so maybe they're trying to force the judge to acknowledge this. Man, there's lots of conspiracy theories and there's lots of ways you can think about this stuff. I'm just 100% confused, and again, if this is fraudulent, I'm going to lean on the side of fraud because R. Kelly's lawyer has come out and said that he didn't file it, and then he's also come out and said R. Kelly didn't authorize this to be filed. So, guys, look, I need to hear your questions and comments below to let me know what you think. Let me know what different conspiracy theories pops up in your mind. Leave your likes, questions below, and please subscribe.